I think we will look back on what's happening with Trump right now as completely good. I think it'll be the best thing that could ever happen to libertarians.
Hi, I'm Nick Gillespie with Reason TV, and we are in Las Vegas talking to Penn Jillette, the great magician and demystifier of all things in American culture and world culture, including weight loss, which we'll get to in a second. He's got a new book coming out, Presto, How I Made More Than 100 Pounds Magically Disappear and Other Big Fat Tales. Penn Jillette, thanks for talking to Reason.
Well, thanks for wanting to.
And when I started as a professional libertarian 20 years ago, you and Drew Carey were the fat fucks, and I was skinny.
Yep.
And now you guys are skinny, and I'm the fat fuck.
Yeah,
so thanks a lot for that.
That's the way it goes, Seasons changed, and so did I.
Yeah. You have been outspoken about Donald Trump and about Hillary Clinton. You were, in 2012, you supported Gary Johnson. Now you were...
I don't feel your burn, feel my Johnson.
That's right.
That's
and for a while, you talked about, you liked Bernie Sanders. You found him refreshing.
Not for a while.
Yeah.
I was given a very specific job. I was told, watch all of the candidates announcing and critique the videos that they've put out. I was kind of told to do this just on the videos. And the only person who spoke about policy at all, and the only person with even the slightest shred of humanity, was Bernie Sanders. So I was very clear that I disagreed with him on everything, but at least it was a human being.
In a story in Newsweek, and you also kind of talked about this in a recent issue of Reason, you said, as an atheist, you got on your knees and prayed for a politician who would be authentic.
Yeah,
and then God smote you because Donald Trump is...
This may be a little solipsistic and narcissistic, but I believe what's happening in politics right now is strictly to punish me. There's no other reason. I really thought there could be no one worse than Hillary Clinton. And there is no one worse than Hillary Clinton except Donald Trump. And I also, what we want, we got a tremendous amount of stuff out of Donald Trump that is really, really good. We got absolute proof from Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump that Citizens United did not destroy our system. The two candidates starting out with the least money did fabulously. Jeb Bush was the one who wins. It comes down to Jeb Bush and Hillary Clinton if Citizens United destroyed our whole political. It didn't. Yeah. And we have proof of that. I mean, just absolute proof. I don't know why people even mention it anymore. We got proof of that.
Well, I think they're mentioning it less and less, right?
Well, no. I have friends who just go, until you get the money out of politics, we haven't got a chance. And they just repeat that like a mantra. And although Jeb Bush and Bernie Sanders tell you everything you need to know about that. And the other thing is, after all the Bush and Clinton, I would have told you, I mean, if you talked to me 3 years ago, maybe you did, I would have told you, and maybe I did, that I really wanted someone who, and this is a horribly overused word, but I guess I'm going to use it, someone who was authentic, someone who was in some way honest. You want to be careful, but honest. And once in a while waffled on issues, and once in a while shrugged, and who had some sort of emotional stuff, and it was all so sterile. I wanted to get a little bit out of Steely Dan, a little bit into punk rock, have all that happen. I would have told you that 1,000 times. And Trump ticks every one of those boxes. And I didn't add the important thing, and with a brain in his head and not a racist. Well, I just thought that was all that mattered.
You were on 2 seasons of Celebrity Apprentice with him. And from what I understand, the turning point in your relationship with him is when you you described his hair as being made of cotton candy made of piss.
I said it looked like. I didn't ever claim it was made of piss. It looked exactly like cotton candy made of piss. I'm not sure that was the turning point. The turning point actually, in those wild times of no sleep, and pretending to be part of something that's not really happening. I mean, we are co-workers on a television show. He's not seeing if he's going to hire me. He has no job. The places he could hire me, the casinos that he has that have showrooms, he put into bankruptcy. He no longer owns them. So he can't hire me. Plus I have a job. So that's all completely fake, right? But during the time, it's not Stockholm syndrome. It's Actors Playhouse.
Yeah.
You get yourself. It's an improvisational, 5-week improvisational show, in which you've decided that he is the boss and you are the employee, and you do that.
So this is like the Stanford prisoner experiment.
A little bit,
Yeah.
a little bit, more like that than like entertainment. So during that time, I know that Donald Trump's lying about a lot of what happens, but I also know that I'm also not correct, because everything gets jumbled together. But there was a time when they asked me, while I was still in the show, if Donald Trump ran for president, if I'd support him. And I said, absolutely not. And I believe, and this may be the most damning thing you'll hear me say about Trump, I believe I liked him more than anyone else who was on the show. During that time, I said I would not support him for president. And I got a call instantly from the powers that be, not Trump himself, saying, no, you must support him as president. And they said it's going to come down to you and Trace, and he's going to want to know that you both support him for president. And I said, well, I don't. And they said, well, you really have to, because he's looking at the big picture here. And I go, we're on a television show. So I was told when I said I wouldn't support him for president that I would not win.
Yeah.
And if you watch the final show, and don't, why would you? He says, you're being judged on the quality of your ice cream, the quality of your final presentation, how much ice cream you sold. He gives a whole list of the criteria. And then he says, Penn, you did the best ice cream, you did the best. And he checks them all off that I won every category and said, oh, by the way, Trace wins. Now, the Walgreens people were very upset by this because they wanted to sell my ice cream and do a whole thing. And NBC was very upset by this. They were both so upset, as a matter of fact, that they gave money to my charity kind of under the table. So I actually ended up making more for my charity than Trace did because of kind of guilt money going in. They were very upset. I was not, because the rules of this show are that he decides who wins. And there's no other little, as a libertarian, we care very much about the rules. We really do. And if you and I are playing a game, and I've decided when I go in that whatever you say goes, and then you say something, I'm not allowed to say, that's unfair. There cannot be no unfair. And I also like to say on Celebrity Apprentice that I am a terrible, terrible chess player. I'm horrible. But I can sit here with you and tell you what the rules to chess are. I can tell you what the rules to Texas Hold'em are. I can lay those out to you. I did 2 full professional runs of Celebrity Apprentice and did very well. I did as well as you can do and still be a failure. And yet I can't tell you what any of the rules are. There is not a game being played.
Is that what would a Trump presidency, which ultimately is unlikely, but is that one of the things that worries you about it? It's like we would be in an America where there are no clear rules, although he gets to decide them.
Not going for a joke and just trying as hard as I can to tell the truth. I think he doesn't really have strong convictions and sense of right and wrong. He's not really, really smart. He's not stupid, he's not a dumb guy, but he's not smart like presidents are smart. We make jokes, everybody makes jokes except me, about George W. Bush not being smart. He's smart. He just is. Obama smarter? Probably, sure. Obama smarter than Clinton? Probably, almost certainly. But they're up here, And if we're talking about it, you're wherever you are, but you're not smarter than Obama. None of us are. Even the smart guys aren't there. And Trump isn't one of those people. He's not someone that when you're having a conversation with him, I probably listened to him talk for, I don't want to exaggerate, but probably 8 or 9 hours of a monologue of Trump. And I can't think of one thing he said that I went, oh yeah, huh. Now try to think of someone in your life that could talk for 8 hours, and albeit it's on TV and it's to be chopped up and put on there. Give you that. He's not trying to be particularly profound, although it seemed like he was. That's not true for Obama. I don't think Obama could talk to you 15 minutes on any subject without you saying, either I didn't know that or I'd never thought of that. Undoubtedly both of those and more than once. And isn't that the minimum you need from a president? Now these two things cancel, because if Trump were to become president, which I think is so unlikely it's insane, but if he were, the powers of the world crush him. He doesn't get anything done. I mean, Obama, a good man, I think a wonderful man, who I think we disagree with, but a wonderful man, was completely boxed in and able to do very, very little. Clinton, who really understands the game, is, I think, but this is a cynical way to think, I don't like to think, but thinking cynically, Clinton is probably more dangerous than a Trump presidency, because she'll actually get stuff done.
What worries you the most about Hillary Clinton? Like, what's she going to get done that really freaks your shit?
I just think bigger government. I mean, Trump should not be someone we're scared of if the presidency had not gotten so big. It might come down to, I don't mean to get, this is a very high school-y thing to say, but I think all the same true. In the 1940s, we decided, for maybe good reason, I mean, I don't have a better idea, that because we wanted to have mutually assured destruction, one person had to be able to launch nuclear weapons. We decided that. Now that goes way beyond dictatorship. That's a horrible decision. I mean, I haven't got a better one, but it's a horrible decision. So we now have one person who can actually do huge destruction of the world. I want to be overly dramatic and say blow up the whole world, but they could. They could certainly do damage, though. And I really believe that Hillary Clinton, as much of a warmonger as she is, and she will certainly be the killingest president we've had in a long time, I don't think she'd hit that button. Now Cruz bragged about how he hit the button. And Trump, I don't think really bragged. He mentioned it, but I can just see him, if someone questioned his authority in the right way, I can see him just saying, I mean, can you? Am I crazy?
Well, can I ask? Is the rise of Trump, because as you were talking about, and Sanders in his own way, these were independents who kind of took over these old parties that are dying. Is it kind of great, though, that he is probably going to destroy the Republican Party or force it to change what it stands for?
Yes, yes. Yeah. I mean, probably if you and I were having this discussion in 10 years, I think we will look back on what's happening with Trump right now as completely good. I think it'll be the best thing that could ever happen to libertarians. I mean, it's beyond.
It already is.
It's beyond good.
And Clinton is also helping. I mean, now I know you've said that if your vote is going to matter, or you think it is, you're going to vote for Hillary. You'll put a Hillary sticker on your car. But your heart is with Gary Johnson or with the Libertarian.
Yes, and I also have what I wanted out of my presidential candidates. I will also give to myself the ability to change my mind.
Right. Yeah.
I will be supporting Gary Johnson all the way. I think one of the problems, I talked to a guy in L.A., a guy pitching a show or something, but a guy who has a lot of money and who you would typecast as a liberal like this. And he said, and maybe I'm missing a joke or I wouldn't see the irony, but I don't think I was. I think I usually know a joke when it bites me in the ass. He said, I'm supporting Trump because I want to watch it burn.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of that. I mean, anybody in the intelligentsia who's supporting Trump is supporting him to watch it burn. I don't think any of them believe he will fix anything. But, I believe that if I hadn't sat in a room with Trump for a long time, I might have a more accurate assessment of this. I might be confused by the fact that not that guy. No, not no. What are you talking? Not no. And I also feel a little bit. My friends talk to me, and they start talking about Trump, and I say, well, no, however bad you think he is, he's worse. I mean, you don't have the intelligence of the imagination. Now, I say this all within the box. This is a story that is so important to me. Al Franken, I worked with on Saturday Night Live. And we weren't friends, but I was over his house a couple times. I probably knew him personally a little better than I know you, which is, we're acquaintances,
right.
But never talked for hours. And when Al Franken was running for the Senate, he wrote me an email and said, would you support me and would you do a few little things for me to be senator? And I wrote back to him and said, Al, I liked working with you. You're a good guy, but I disagree with a lot. I'm a libertarian, and I can't in good conscience support you. I really don't want you to win as much as I like you. I disagree, And he wrote back and said, well, it's good that you're a libertarian because your ideas will never be tested.
Yeah.
But thanks a lot, and hope we cross paths again. And since then, I've bumped into him, and hello, how are you? When Donald Trump was running, I was asked, I think the first person that asked me was Lawrence O'Donnell, who asked me, you were around Trump, what do you think of it? And I said, I kind of liked him. I thought he was good in the show. I think he has a lot of skill sets for the show. And I think he's a good person, it's some level. I mean, it's not my favorite person to hang out with, but I do not want him to be president. I do not agree with him on anything. I believe he's wrong on everything. Almost precisely what I said to Al Franken. And his reaction was to start tweeting out that my magic show was awful.
Yes.
Terrible magic show. And it made me think, and actually there's video that is interesting. I think, I'm not interested in it now, but I think I might be in a few years. I'm on Opie and Jimmy's show on Sirius when the tweet from Donald Trump comes in. So I have two cameras on me and a mic in front of me at the moment I read a presidential candidate attacking me there. And my reaction is just, yeah, that's a reaction I can see happening. But we're supposed to be better than that. If you're going to be our spokesman, you've got to be better than you are personally. You've got to be better. And Trump, the very pettiness and the very honesty that I respect him for so much, if you're going to be president, we can't have that. We're sure, we are absolutely positive that George Washington was a miserable prick. But when he spoke for all of us with a great conscience. And I'm not sure you want a president who's taking shots at a carny performer. You're much more of a, I don't mean to damn with faint praise, but you're much more of a historian than I am. Do you have an example in American history of a serious political candidate attacking a trivial personality? Do you have like Lincoln going, 70 years ago, I saw this magician who really sucked?
Right. Or maybe he slagged John Wilkes Booth.
Yeah,
that's
of course.
the beginning of it.
But it's not.
But and then you responded very nicely. You tweeted back like, "Well, I'm sorry you missed her. You couldn't make it to the show."
Yeah.
Well, so are you worried about the future? And when I think about you, and this has to be, it could be 30 years ago. You were on Politically Incorrect. I think when it was still on Comedy Central, the panel was talking about how we're running out of aluminum, and this is a big problem. And then you said, you know what, it's not a problem, because when we run out of aluminum, we ran out of tin, and then we made cans out of aluminum, and we'll make them out of something else, or we won't need cans. You're like a super optimist in this sense.
Crazy
and are you worried about the future in a way? I mean, you have two kids. Do you think they're going to end up in a world, if it's Hillary or if it's Trump, or other people? Is this a time to be worried about the future?
I mean, I would really like our president to go to another branch of government before killing people overseas. That was a big mistake. And kind of letting that slide more and more and more, and then letting it really slide under George W. Bush, and then really slide under Obama, is going to bite us in the ass as heavily with Hillary Clinton as it possibly could. You get that, we're now at that, those two levels you jump up back and forth on. One person killed overseas in my name is a tragedy. You got to say that, okay? That having been said, and you can't shrug it off, but that having been said, I don't think that things will get horribly worse with either one of the presidents. I mean, I want to be for, because that's what you do, sitting around with a coffee with your friends. You want to get apocalyptical, and I can't believe how terrible this is. And these may be, these may be demonstratively the two worst candidates we've had in history. I mean, it's in terms of what the American people think of them. Has there ever been?
No.
It doesn't seem like you should be able to run for president with over 50% disapproval, right. And I also, and people have argued with me on this, and they could be right, but the other thing that's so odd is that anyone who knows Obama is an Obama supporter. If you meet Obama, even if you disagree with him, you go, wow, it's a good guy. I think anybody who meets Bill Clinton goes, that's a great guy. I loved hanging out with him. Certainly true for Jimmy Carter. Certainly true for Ford, certainly true for LBJ, certainly true for John F. Kennedy. We've had in our history one president who people who knew him personally didn't like him, and that was Nixon. Yeah. And now I know people who give a metric shit ton of money to Hillary Clinton. They give her money. They're supporting her. And these are guys that give enough money that they could hang out with her. Yeah. They gave enough money they could hang out with Bill Clinton, and did, and liked him. And they go, I can't stand to be around him.
Well,
and Trump, there's nobody who knows him well. His family and so on, who's supporting him.
Are they demystifying politics in a way? And like one of the themes I see, and I think I probably heard this from you, but one of the themes in your work, in Penn and Teller's work, as well as your own stuff, is you like to demystify, the world and why things happen the way they do, or how they might happen differently. Do you think people like Trump and Hillary, they are so despised that they force us to look at the mechanics of power and how people rise to power, that they might demystify some of the things that we've taken for granted, where, we'll just let the president kill whoever they want. We don't have to do anything. Maybe they will force us to.
I don't know. That would be, that'd be nice. I just wish, also, one of the interesting things about Gary Johnson is that, when it hits you, it's so remarkable, is he doesn't preach fear. Mm-hmm. You can't find Gary Johnson saying, if you don't vote for me, it's the end of the world. If you don't vote for me, things will be okay. I think I could make them a little better. Yeah. Which is kind of what politics should be, right? When you got slogans like, make America great again. That is such an unpleasant slogan on so many levels. And I don't even know what Hillary's is, but working together for me.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this kind of demystification process that you do in your work. Earlier, this year you released Director's Cut, which is a crowdfunded movie about a crowdfunded movie. Mm-hmm. The movie that you did before that, the documentary that you helped produce, Tim's Vermeer, which is about, how did Vermeer do this stuff, and can we kind of reverse engineer to paint a Vermeer, and it's demystifying, how he did it, and Vermeer is particularly interesting since he probably used the camera obscura and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, no, but okay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay. So we'll get into that in a different conversation. And then the third season of the show, Fool Us, mm-hmm. which is about magic. Like, how do you do it? And it's also great because you guys love to be fooled.
Love it.
But it's all about, kind of showing, okay, this is how it's done. Where does that impulse come from in you?
It comes, I tell the story over and over again of. Seeing Kreskin and thinking his mental powers were real, and wanting to see that as science, and how much that upset me as a 12-year-old or whatever age I was. And but you go through a period when you're 16, 17, 18, when truth really obsesses everybody. And then I think you're supposed to kind of sort of grow out of it. And I didn't. It really remains of complete interest to me. Because, you get more sophisticated. I know that truth is not this magic diamond bullet you can automatically have. But just because it's elusive does not mean it's unimportant, And so I do care about that. And there's some of it that's just on nothing to do with morality. It's just all your detective stories are the search for some sort of truth. And there's really very few stronger positive emotions you can have than the aha, that feeling of discovery, of understanding something. And what detective stories give you is a false aha. They make you think you figured something out, but you haven't.
And of course, I guess it's not a detective story, but your novel Sock is also kind of like this, or an attempt to get to that.
Yeah. And it's a really nice form. It's the short story form, It's a really nice form that I like. And I do also believe that we all are working together to try to ascertain what this world is that we live in, and working together. And I get very, very bothered. I'm not bothered at all by people being wrong, because I think on absolutely everything I'm wrong. I'm fine with people being wrong. I have such a naive point of view to almost not believing it, that people can have information and represent the opposite of that. I just find that so appalling, and in a certain way fascinating. And so it's not so much demystification as it is just, how can we figure this out a little better? How can we get to that? And then when someone comes along that's actually giving, and I'm one of these people, I remember the story that Amazing Randy had in Flim Flam, when somebody, and I think they took over that TM people, the Maharishi, took over that town. Iowa, is it Iowa? Whatever?
Yes, yeah.
And they announced that the crime rates had gone down this enormous amount. And Randy was sitting there looking like I think this is the kind of thing you guys do too, going, well, they say crime rate's gone down. There might be an angle on this. It might be that so many of these people have moved in that it's thrown off the demographic. It might be that they're doing self-policing. And he spent a few days on this. And then he called the police chief of the town. And the police chief said, no, crime hasn't gone down. And that's that's the trick I always fall into, the trap I fall into, is I always think, a local entertainer here just announced crazily he was making like $70 million a year. And we were sitting around going, well, how could he be doing that? And then finally someone just said, he's lying. That's how he's doing that. You try to say he's counting the absolute gross, what he could be making if every seat was sold. No, he's not. Yeah. The crime rate just didn't go down. Right. And that kind of stuff, I always think there's a finesse, or there's some sort of there was a little bit there's a clever wording there. I'm always thinking there's weasels that are doing these little sliding things. And sometimes it's just out and out lying. So what I'm not good at is the out and out lying stuff. Stuff like Vermeer, where there's really no lie made. It's just we've gone down the garden path. I'm fascinated by. But somebody who just says, oh, no, that's just that.
Yeah. So, there's a real generosity of spirit in that, of like trying to, ascertain truth and share it publicly, and also showing the steps. I mean, this is, I've seen your act multiple times, and, one of the things that is great is when you show how things are done, and it's more complicated than that. But in Presto, this is like Ben Franklin's autobiography, How I Made My Way in the World, but it's how I made, a third of myself disappear, right? Yeah. Talk a little bit about that. Like, what motivated you to do that, or motivated you? I mean, I'm sure you had started weight loss for a long time, but this time you saw it all the way through.
Yeah, I'd always been. Well, there's so much to say about this. I believe, the strongest disclaimer ever at the beginning of this book. Only a few. What I essentially say is, if you take medical advice from a Vegas magician, you're an asshole.
Actually, I don't know if this is worse. You say if you take medical advice from a juggler,
right.
you're an
Yeah,
asshole.
yeah.
But
I've never been asked to write a book before. The books that I've written, when they cover atheism and libertarianism and so on, are things that I really wanted to write. When I started dropping weight really, really fast, which was just a side effect, what I really did was started getting healthy really, really fast. People, my friends, plus people on the street said, tell me how you did this, tell me how you did this. And my answer would always be, I don't know, I'm not a scientist. Only 600 people have been through this. We haven't got any control groups. It's, we know that half of what I'm doing is bullshit and accomplishing nothing. But we don't know which half.
Right.
And we don't know where it is.
And this is, you're on the Nutritarian diet.
Yeah,
correct?
pretty much,
and
yeah.
Can you just explain that briefly?
I do pretty much no animal products. I don't like to use the word vegan because vegan has a lot of political, but no animal products. And no refined grains. You notice there's no mention of no GMO.
Right.
There's no mention of organic, although all that stuff overlaps, not to me. No animal products, no refined grains, and then extremely low salt, sugar, and oil. There's all this stuff that will say olive oil is really good for you and stuff. All that stuff gets thrown out. You get plenty of oil, salt, and sugar. If you want none of it, you'll get plenty. That's what I eat. And then every couple of weeks, I go out with friends or something and eat what I used to eat, which is remarkable because I had to promise myself that because I thought I was giving up something, but now there's no cravings, no desire. I can sit around people eating cheeseburgers and pizza and it means nothing because you change your microbiome, maybe, but that's what a lot of people think. And you also change your taste. Your taste, I make a lot of comparisons to music, you bang out that 3-chord rock and roll and you absolutely love it. And then at some point in your life, you listen to a little bit of, maybe you get there by Zappa, however you get there, you get to Miles and you get to Stravinsky and you get to Sun Ra, and all of a sudden you realize, well, that 4 on the floor with 3 chords is really, really nice, and a guy screaming about fucking is really nice, but there's all this other stuff out there. And I had been eating those same flavors, salt, sugar, and fat. I've been eating for, 60 years. And all of a sudden I realized, wow, there's actually a taste to corn besides salt and butter. There's actually all this. And it's so easy when you're unhealthy to lie to yourself. Everybody helps you, I'm not blaming anybody else, but it's very easy to find an excuse to eat that cheeseburger that night. And I also don't believe anything anyone says in the hospital, right around when they come, or on New Year's Eve. I don't believe anything anymore. That's the amount of time when we're all lying all the time to everybody. So I didn't make some sort of big profit. I was in the hospital with high blood pressure, but I made no big declarations what I'm going to do. And to me, and I don't know, you'll find that this book, there's never been, I don't believe, a weight loss book with more first-person singular in it. There's almost no second person. I don't tell other people what to do for moral and artistic reasons on this, because I don't know. But if your question is, what do you think you did? I answer that completely thoroughly. But for me, and this is so simple now and so hard then, I've never been proud of anything easy. And when you think about it, very few people are. People brag about climbing Everest. They don't brag about climbing up a hill with a small incline, a nice grassy walk. And every diet I tried, what I call the New York Times grown-up diets, where you can eat just the way you're eating, just a little bit of portion control and be a little careful on this, and why not be vegan till 6 and then only eat meat at night, and why not do this? It won't change your life at all. And all of a sudden, like a diamond bullet, I went, I've never enjoyed anything that didn't change my life at all. I mean, isn't that what life is changing it, I didn't learn to play upright bass bebop because someone said to me, you can learn this without doing anything. Just take what you normally do in the day and kind of slide a bass string under it. No, you want to play till your fingers bleed. And just so you can look at them and see them bleeding. Even if you're not getting better, it's the effort that's the fun of it. And in magic, Teller and I, we don't need any new material. We have outrun the clock. We have 5.5 hours of material and how many years to live? A couple decades, if we're lucky, to be working. We're not going to use up that material. The audiences in Vegas rotate. We do new tricks simply because we like to do new tricks. And we choose the new tricks based on how hard they are. And believe me, we don't tick off the easy ones. It was hard.
Is that impulse to remake yourself or to challenge yourself, is it just a personality temperament you're born with, or is it an ideological commitment almost? Or, is it an act of will? Or is it just who you are?
You can disguise the nature-nurture question any way you want, and I can't answer it. But, he is not busy being born, he's busy dying.
Okay. Let me, and this is my final topic, I did not realize this about you because I had read poorly in your life story, but Bob Dylan, who you just quoted, is one of your heroes. Yeah. Why is Bob Dylan one of your heroes? And how devastated will you be when he will eventually, when he passes, like Bowie or Prince or whatever?
I've got to tell you, I was good friends with Lou, and losing Lou was really, really hard. The one that snuck up on me, and you say Bob Dylan will die, and I do know that. I didn't know George Carlin would. I just didn't know it. None of us were ready for that. I think we were more ready for Lou Reed, but George was just, okay, well, he'll be going, I'll have to deal with his death sometime, but it won't be for a long time. I've been a fan of a lot of people, and I hate it that we have this culture that tries to turn everybody into fans, and then at the same time ridicules them. We use the phrase fanboy. And people will come up and say, I feel like such an asshole, but I'm a big fan of yours. And you go, don't do that. I am proudly a hardcore fan. At the time I met Lou Reed, I was president of the Lou Reed fan club. And he told me I had to stop that if we were going to be friends. It was too creepy, which is true. You can't do that.
What did you like about Lou Reed? And then we'll get to Dylan.
I love the blending of levels. Night of the Living Dead, George Romero's first movie. His description of it, not the ads for it, nothing else, was, I'm not going to give this word for word, so forgive me, but it'll be close. He said, Night of the Living Dead is what happens to America when a truly radical political form takes over. Pow! That's everything. Making a monster movie with intellectual content is the best for me. Now, the Velvet Underground were this dirt-dumb, banging punk with an Aaron Copland scholar playing viola over it, and with Delmore Schwartz short story type lyrics, all kind of mixed together. That Warhol thing of, is this really stupid or is this really smart? That mixing, I am a complete and utter sucker for. So Lou Reed having this intellectual college guy at the same time this motorcycle boots guy. The best example of this, and unfortunately the band doesn't play it out, but the best example is a stupid rock band named Steppenwolf.
Right.
Oh, I wish they'd done a little more. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to do much more than Born to Be Wild and Monster.
Magic Carpet Ride. Monster, which, for those of you who hopefully will never hear it, is an attack on America by a Canadian band. But yes, no.
But so Lou Reed really had that. Yeah. But Dylan, I look back on the music I listened to, and you can't trust your musical taste at all 3 years plus or minus your first blowjob. That information is not valid. So you got to tell me when you first had sex, and then tell me the music you liked from 3 years before, 3 years after, and you're not allowed to talk about that. You're not allowed to, because maybe that song was playing during, and it's nailed in, it's a different thing happening. But I look back on the music from when you're really forming, so many of the bands get worse. And I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to. The Beatles are still a very good band, but they're not as good as I thought they were in 68 or 69. Really good stuff. I mean, Hey Jude and Revolution, there's wonderful stuff there. I'm not in any way putting them down, but they're coming down a little bit. Not a shitty band, but a little bit. Still probably the best band, maybe, but a little bit down. But Dylan, you go back to Blonde on Blonde, and it's better now? But that's not the surprising thing. If you and I were sitting talking after Blood on the Tracks came out, you know, Blood on the Tracks comes out, we're sitting there talking, and then you say to me, and you know something, this guy will do a better record than this in 2005. How high are you, Nick? The fact that you can go see Paul McCartney, and he does a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful show. It's full of hits. He hits every note. The band is hot. The band is tight. It's exactly the show you have expected him to do if you guessed from 1970 what he'd be doing. Oh, there's fireworks on Live and Let Die. Sure there are, of course. Dylan, I defy you to say what he's going to be doing 6 months from now. He is just driven by pure art. You know, his son said to me, and you have to be very careful to not break confidences, but I don't think I am here. His son said to me, there is no doubt that if my dad had never made it, if he was sitting on the side of the sidewalk with his guitar and a hat out in front of him, he would be doing precisely the same songs. His whole career would be exactly the same. Now, there's certainly hyperbole in that, but it's kind of sort of true. And I've also found out, and I didn't know this, I don't know how I didn't know this, but Christopher Hitchens, Salman Rushdie, is that enough name dropping in one sentence? Salman Rushdie told me that Christopher Hitchens used to play this game where you could name any line from any Dylan song, any time in his career, including the Christian period, and Hitchens would give you the next line.
Wow.
And I went, really? How come I didn't know that when he was alive? And I found out that Salman Rushdie, his whole world is Dylan, you know? And I really think if we have anybody who's Shakespeare in our time, it's Dylan. And he just speaks to me more and more. And he once said in an interview that the purpose of art was to inspire. And when you see a Dylan show, you would think he's so good. You know, if you go see a jazz cat who's so good playing bass, you can leave that show going, why do we even pick up a bass again? But for some reason, and I'm not the only one that feels this, at the end of a Dylan show, art just seems so good. I want to go write a play. I'll write a novel. I'll stay up all night and write a song. And you don't care that it's not as good. The other thing I love about Dylan is he is a freak, not a cheerleader. When you go see Springsteen, it's all this inclusive stuff. You know, don't we all love girls and cars? And don't we all have an economic downturn? And don't we all want justice? And we're all here, and and woo, and let's go. And it's this feeling of camaraderie. The whole show, everybody's Bruce Springsteen. And you might want to make comparisons between Springsteen and Dylan, and I think you'd be completely wrong. Because even if they both have gravelly voices and both come from the same traditions, he's a cheerleader. And that's good, nothing wrong with that. But Dylan just stands there and says, I am speaking for me. Maybe some of this is true for you too. I don't know. But I'm digging so deep. All of his mining, you know, is going towards his heart and deeper into his brain. He makes no attempt that I can tell to say, oh yeah, this is going to kill them. Yeah. This is what they'll like. And that's where universality has to live. You can't be universal if you're trying to please other people. You can only be universal if you have so clearly who you are. And Dylan has no idea who he is, but he's still searching, and he's sharing that process with us. And people tell me, you're such a Dylan nut. What album should I listen to? And I always tell them, stay with the 21st century. You don't even need to go before that. Who else?
Yeah. And I would throw in Chronicles is probably the most, I think it's the most fully realized beat prose. It's better than Kerouac. It's better, and that is like a whole other genre for him. That is awesome. Thank you. As I consider myself a Dylan nut, and you have given me a new appreciation.
Did you
for
know
him,
that
so
about
appreciate
Hitchens?
I did not, and I wish I had. Because
the people that I know and read about who are really literary, they will always come up with Shakespeare, Burns, Dylan.
Yeah.
And it actually, and this shows what a bad education I had. Actually, the past few months, I've been really going through the Shakespeare stuff, going, wait a minute, you know what I mean?
I guess he's the Dylan of his time.
I guess he's the Dylan for all time. I guess he really is the best. I should know more about him.
Yeah. Well, we will leave it there, and we will also leave people knowing about Presto, your latest book, How I Made More Than 100 Pounds Magically Disappear, and Other Big Fat Tales.
Yeah, and you'll also find libertarian stuff in there.
All right. Well, I think the way that you were talking about Dylan and that search, both for truth, but also self-recreation and not even invention, as much as it's a search, I find that very consistent with a kind of libertarian ethos. So thank you for that.
Feel my Johnson.
Well, we will leave it there. The man is Penn Jillette. The latest book is Presto. Thanks so much for talking to us.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
Yeah.